today because you've got a hell of a lot of things happening in the sector right now. Can we dive right in?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sarah. Really appreciate the opportunity.
One thing that I had noticed is that you have quite a variety in your career. And it means like you've had sales, you've had employment, and you're now working in the plan management space. What was the golden thread that aligns all these past careers together to be where you are today?
The golden thread that seems to be going through is the aspect of teaching. So when
Yep.
I finished school, went to university, got a bachelor's degree in education, taught in schools for a number of years,
Yep.
didn't feel that it was for me. I love the act of teaching. I am not a fan of bureaucracy and over the top data analysis and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay.
Yep.
I then moved into disability employment. So the disability employment, I'm then
Yep.
coaching people who have, a barrier to employment on what to do and how to get that job, whether it be through, resume writing, interview skills, that sort of stuff. So ultimately, the between each of the jobs that I've done in the main highlights reel of my career, the main thing really is it's always about educating and teaching and imparting knowledge from one to another.
Yep.
So to get specifically into the NDIS, so there's a couple of hops. So there's the disability employment hop. From there, I then moved
Yep.
into workers' compensation and CTP, so workplace injury and accidents. It
Yep.
was when working in that business that the opportunity came along to work in the NDIS, and it's something I hadn't really done any of.
Yep.
I hadn't worked in that higher level of disability support before, and so what I found when getting into it was the opportunity was to try something new, which I'm always keen on, but it was the network of people that I got to meet and got to know in those earliest stages that made me go, okay, yeah, this is something I'd like to try and expand on.
Yep.
And that's what's then led to a longer stint in the NDIS, with ultimately very happy in the industry as a whole. So I would say the initial attraction was the challenge. What's keeping me here is the people
Yep.
around me.
So how has this helped you build trust in the NDIS sector?
The trust is not so much in the sector. The trust I have is in the people within it, because I've gotten the
Yep.
chance to get to know them as people. I get to take away the facade of, oh, I'm X from Y, and it's just like, well, I get to know who is X. And so when
Yep.
I get to know them as people, I then get to see behind that veil and get to know them and what kind of person they are and what their ethics are, what they value. And this is the only industry where I've actually found that occurs. A lot of the other time, if you're in anything to do with sales, anything to do with even employment, that space as well, it's very much traditional sales. It's very much, I have a product, you need the product, let's make it work. Whereas
Yep.
in this space, it's more along the lines of, what do people value, what's important to them, and then is there a connection from there? And if there isn't, is there a connection to someone else, which would not happen in
Yep.
another industry? So I guess it's that extra level that goes with it that really allows for a difference in our approach and a difference in result ultimately.
So have you got a hot tip with your approach on how to engage somebody to network with you?
How to network 101. Be your authentic self. That is
Yep.
the ultimate underlying thing I could ever impart to anybody, is to be their unique and true self. Do not try to come into this particular industry. It doesn't apply to a lot of others, but to this
Yep.
particular industry, you need to be able to remove the mask, peel back the veil, let them get to know you, and you will get to know them. That genuine connection, that genuine relationship is what I would say is networking 101. Everyone in the sector has this tendency to hop from one business to another. No one's ever really set in stone in being in the one job all the time. And so then your connection is not so much with the business. Your connection is with the person that's underneath that shirt. It's the person behind the logos. Yeah, it's very different to what you will find in other sectors. And it really
Yep.
does mean that it allows you to open up. So Network 101, be real.
Yep. Brilliant. So you are at current in plant management and you work for a company that's Plan Manage Assist, is known for, now I did a bit of a deep dive into the website, right? But
Yes.
according to the website, according to social media, it's about treating people like people. How is this such a big deal for you personally when it came to picking this organization to work for?
Okay, so with this particular organization, being that it was founded by two couples, so the two couples
Yep.
both had family that were on the scheme. So with one couple on the website, so when you dive onto the website, that photo
Yep.
at the very homepage, that's actually the CEO and his family. And so getting to see, straight away on the homepage, you actually get to see this is one of the founders, and they've got that lived experience. And so to me, that level of authenticity that comes with it beyond, there's all those other layers of being a small business, which I prefer, working small to medium, but a family owned with lived experience. I guess that's what drew me, is that they're authentically, themselves. They are being real. So that's going to be the number one thing for what drew me to them in particular, is that they're not an insurance company. They're not a finance company that's buying it. It's just, this is who's owning it, and that's what we've got.
Yep. So when you're out and about, and I know for sometimes with support workers, I too have to explain what plan management is. In your words, how would you explain plan management?
Plan management is without a doubt the sexiest part of the NDIS, and anyone who tells you
tell me why.
Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying, because quite frankly, I reckon if we were to make a Men of Plan Management calendar, that thing would sell better than the Fireys. No, it's one of those things where it is quite dry, it's quite dull, but it's because it is so important, and it's a layer of protection and safeguarding that, again, you don't see elsewhere. You don't have an independent organization that is, checking to make sure things are kosher when you're going to get something done for yourself. Short of hiring a private accountant, that's about as close as you get. And so whilst it is at its core something that is very dry, it also allows me to be that universal central pivot point for the entire network overall. Because every organization wants to get paid. Every organization has bills. Therefore, every organization needs to come through me at some point.
Yep. And I think there's a real misleading part of plan management. It's actually quite difficult. And the reason why I say the difficult part is that as plan managers, you receive invoices, you receive quotes, you receive all that stuff, and you're reading it, and they're not always right. And every time you have to reject one, it's going back to the drawing board. And because the rate is one standard rate per month, sometimes you're working a lot longer for particular people that we serve because it hasn't been put in properly to begin with. Could you give any advice for anyone out there that is submitting their invoices into plan managers? What should we look for? What should we do to make it easier and get paid?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the first thing I would do is, if you're doing, let's just say you're doing one service. Let's just start with those ones, because that's your independent support worker. They're doing one thing. Get to know your lines, get to know what your codes are, get to know what the price guide indicates. If you're not sure, ask them in advance. If you know what those prices will be, a lot of the time, a lot of the mistakes are usually those silly trivial errors where it's that you've either got the wrong number in there, it's the wrong rate, you're using the weekend rate for a weekday, and a lot of the time it could be an error from just doing copy paste. Take a few extra seconds to get it right, because those few extra seconds that you're spending now will save you doing it again later, because a plan manager, a good one's going to pick it up. And if they're going to pick it up, if the good ones pick it up, and they are, yes, they're doing it to fact check and correct, to make sure that everything is going through correctly, but they're not doing it they need it to be right, because if it gets to be put through as incorrect, there's always the possibility that the plan manager themselves will be held liable. It's in the plan manager's best interest to take a little longer, because as you said, Sarah, the rate at which a plan manager is paid is very low, very low. It's incredibly low. I mean, in perspective, a support worker would earn more in a couple of hours of a shift than a plan manager gets in a month on one participant.
Yeah.
And yet, whether it's one invoice or 1,000, it's the same rate. So communicate with your plan managers in advance and get to know them, get to have a relationship with them, because yes, your relationship is usually going to be with your coordinator, but your plan manager, having a relationship with them will make life easier in the long run.
100%, because I've had plan managers that have guided, and I've seen guided people wherever possible, so they can get paid, because you do want people to be paid. Like, it's just money in the bank. If not, it's to be spent on services for people. We don't want to put that in jeopardy for people because we delayed something.
That's right.
All right. So a day in a life as a business development manager in the NDIS world, what does your normal day look like?
The best part is that there's really no other day that's truly the same. There's always going to be something. The main thing really is going to be connecting with people that I know and already do have great relationships with. It will be connecting with people I don't know yet and getting to know more people, maintaining and making sure that I've got a database of who does what where across the sector. It'll then be following up on those ones that they haven't done their endorsement yet, getting that done, because that's an ongoing issue for any plan manager. They'll understand that one really. And then it might be either running an event or attending an event. I do a lot of networking events, both as attendee and host. And I know we'll touch on that a bit more later, but that's a typical day will be, usually it's out and about. If I'm not in the home office and doing some admin, I'll be out and about on the road, meeting with people, just doing exactly the sort of things that you might expect a BDM to be doing.
So when you say you network and all that stuff, I know some things are in person. What is your preferred online when it comes to social media? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Where do we find you?
To find me, the best place is always going to be LinkedIn. LinkedIn to me has proven to be a really, well-run social media when it comes to this particular sector. I will admit that prior to working in this particular space, I did not have as big a LinkedIn presence as I do now. I've always found, and this is for your listeners and for your viewers, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Meta, call it what you will, there's a lot more people on those networks, but it's also very, very toxic, but also very samey. What I had found in exploring, and I do still do a little bit on Meta, I don't do much, but I do a little bit on there, is you're trying to stand out. You want to be, the wolf in the herd of sheep, but you're deciding that to do that, you're going to dress and sound like a sheep. Everyone will typically use a template from Canva. It'll have the same standard Adobe stock images of either a person with Down syndrome or a person in a wheelchair. You'll just rattle off your services, and we have capacity. That's not a reason to engage with you. The first thing, and I get these approaches all the time, I will get providers who will reach out to me with their spiel. First thing I think to myself is, and this will sound really crude, but really rude, but it's not meant to be, is why should I care? It's why should I care? Because if you're coming to me and giving me absolutely no reason to, one, want to listen to you in the first place, but two, you've shown no interest in anything of what I'm doing. The first thing you want to do is sell to me. Not a good look. And then three, the thing you're going to sell to me has absolutely no point of difference to the thousands of other people that I already know. Why should I listen to you? Why should I care? So
because we all go bowling, we all go swimming, we all do personal shopping. There's nothing that breaks us apart, because we do all that. We all do it. I agree with you, because there's nothing that icks me more than the word capacity, because I believe it's kind of like a dirty word. Like, it's like a put off for me. If I hear somebody says that I've got capacity, I'm not interested. But if I can follow your social media and follow your story, and I can see an actual deliverable, like an outcome that somebody achieved, or I could see people enjoying their day doing things that they haven't been doing before without it being that clickbait or very big, I have very strong opinions about kids on social media, but if it's done that a person can actually see themselves on social media in a way that presents, I'm more inclined to watch that. I'm more inclined to engage with you over that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some other swear words I'm going to give you. Some swear words for the NDIS is anytime you say that you're passionate, anytime that you say that you're person-centered, anytime you use the word collaborate when you really mean refer. They are swear words in this industry. And if you're swearing in front of me and that's your spiel, I'm probably going to tune out. And I'll even ask, this is a big one with SIL. Oh my God, SIL. Is a lot of SILs will, and I ask them, what makes your SIL program different? What makes maybe it's the house, maybe it's something that makes you stand out. We're passionate, we're person-centered, and we love collaboration. Switch off, because unfortunately what that tells me is that you've got no point of difference. You don't have something that makes you unique, because if the Incredibles taught me anything, is that if everyone's special, nobody is.
And it doesn't sound very person-centered or created an environment that is, choice and control.
It's a complete echo chamber.
Because you hear quite a lot of them, do you have to give a pitch to people about what you do and how you deliver?
Look, there are people that will expect a pitch. I mean, realistically, anyone who is likely to refer to a plan manager knows what a plan manager does. So
Yeah.
it's less about explaining, and I'm happy to talk to
Yeah.
those that are sort of not necessarily going to refer to me about what we do, and that's fine. Like that's 100% that's fine. But in terms of the spiel or the pitch, it's more about trying to find out what the issues are that they're experiencing first to see if I'm a match, because going in
Yeah.
with the immediate carbon copy spiel,
Yeah.
here's why we're passionate,
Yeah.
person-centered, and want to collaborate, doesn't actually doesn't get to the core of the problem. The core of the problem is if you're
Yeah.
seeking a plan manager, there's a reason you're doing so. And there's all different reasons that you would want a plan
Yeah.
manager or want to change a plan manager. And so my thing is to try and really, it's more about just getting to know the person first and getting to know what they're
Yeah.
looking for. If we're not a match, then I've got, I'm losing nothing. It's fine. But if we are a potential match, that's when it'll be like, okay, so if these are the problems you're experiencing, these are the solutions we have. If this is an option for you, happy to be on your list of 3.
Yeah.
And I don't even want I get offered exclusivity deals. I've been offered a range of things to try and lock things down. I'm not, look, don't get me wrong. If you want to refer every one of your
Yeah.
participants to us, great, happy to do so. But I don't want
Yeah.
any exclusivity, because that then takes away your choice and control, because it's
Yeah.
then saying, oh, this is the plan manager you need to
Yeah.
use. And it's like, well, no, it should be that my team do such a great job that you want to use us, not that you're either obligated to, or that I'm paying you a kickback or whatever it is that they might be wanting. Yeah. So to me, I know exactly what I need to do in terms of, if I was to do my
Yeah.
job to the letter, I'd be a very different BDM. But yeah, in terms of, it's really about listening to them first before even bothering with a pitch.
Yeah, I feel like we're on par because I'm not a very good pitcher, but I'm a very good listener. And then once I listen and ask particular information of somebody, then I can figure out whether I can network with you, or if I can't network, then I'll refer you to somebody else. But gathering all that information, because I actually don't refer people straight away to services. It might be like 3 weeks, 6 months, a year or two's time where I would refer that person, but it's because I remembered. I got a cold. Bear with me.
Okay.
But exactly what I do. It's always worked for me, because like doing it that way, listening and then figuring out whether I will make it. My secret sauce, I think, when it came to plan managers and asking questions, was pretty much to figure out how many people do you have on your list, your location of where your list that you service for. Is there a particular age group? Is there a particular supports when it was providing care, like plan management for particular people with preferences? Is there any difference? Because some people are quite niche in their marketing and they prefer supporting people with all types of disabilities, or some that are really just niche on what they want. So it is just trying to figure out what makes it different, but also the quirky things and the little niche things that people do. This is why I love small providers, because they have that capacity to do niche things and be very personal. So if I am talking to somebody that we serve, I'll be like, well, this person here is really approachable. When you call them, you're always going to know you're going to get that person there. They're the person that's going to answer. So it is just pretty much figuring out who's who in the zoo and then referring accordingly.
Absolutely. And I think that this is where again, I'm swearing, the actual collaboration that occurs within the NDIS is really, you have providers that even are offering the same service that will recommend each other. I think it's one of the really beautiful things about the NDIS is that with a lot of services, if you don't service a particular area, or you don't service a particular cohort, or you just don't service it very well, or someone else might be better, when you have that level of mutual respect and trust, that you can make that recommendation knowing full well that if the situation was reversed, they would do the same for you. That's actually a really good thing. And in fact, I usually find it better to work with those providers that have the ability to say no, that have the ability to understand and recognize that not every participant is ideal for you, and therefore you take ownership of that. That to me tells me that it's more about the participant experience than the dollars. Because if you're the type that, if you're a core support worker and you're like, I'll work with anyone, I'll do anything, I mean, you then think about the kind of people that will do whatever it takes to get paid. You're really in the right industry. The only exception to that, and this is where it's really funny, the only really exception to that is plan managers. And the reason that it's an exception is because plan management itself is done remotely. You don't normally go and visit your plan manager every week. Plan manager only does one job, and the level of variance in what that job entails, they're still paying bills. That's the same. They're all
Yep.
connected to the NDIS, whether it's live or not. They're still doing that. They still have the same price guide. They still have the same rate. There is so little variance at its base that you're right. It is then down to whether it's about niching. Plan managers typically won't do a lot of that. There'll be some that might do a little bit, but really it
Yeah.
then comes down to, with plan managers, it's just who do you vibe with, who do you trust, and who can you work with. That's really going to be the deciding factor. And it's just
But also the
unfortunate because you can only
communication
learn.
style. I'd
Because they're
say
all, yeah,
communication style.
yeah,
And the reason why I'd say communication style is because not everyone that we serve are emailers and texters. They're phone call people. And that's okay. They also, I've in the past have definitely came across people that actually wanted to see my face behind the phone. Like they wanted to know, they wanted to be able, make sure that I was a person, not a bot or something like that in between. So it is important to have a presence so people can actually see you and actually understand who they're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do get requests on occasion to do virtual, like a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting with the participant. It's not very often, but it does happen on occasion. So yeah, and I absolutely get that. And I've even made adaptations. So when a participant wants to come on board, say for example, they are illiterate, they don't have the ability to read or write, they want to do phone call. So what I've done in there to help them out is once a month they can get a phone call from the plan manager to just give them the rundown of what's gone through, and to just make sure that they understand what is happening with that, just that dialogue back and forth. A lot of the time, we might adapt for someone who might be a bit of a technophobe, as you mentioned. Not everyone's an emailer or a texter, so we'll set it up that you get that letter. There's adaptations and ways in which we can and again, in the NDIS, it'd be very difficult to say hand on heart you're doing it well if you can't have some level of accessibility in your service. It seems pretty obvious, but that's exactly why that level of communication that happens between plan managers. I guess the only other real difference is, as you said before, it's kind of like a further extension on that, which is the customer experience. The customer experience being, am I going to be speaking to someone in Australia? Number one. Am I actually going to get someone who answers the phone? Number two. And if I then get someone who answers the phone eventually, are they actually going to be able to help me? Are they going to be able to give me something that I'm looking for? And if the answer to that is no, then maybe it's not the right one for you. If you're the kind of person who needs an answer to your problem, if you're the kind of person that's very disengaged and it's like, yep, whatever, that's fine, then it really doesn't matter. But if you genuinely want to be able to have someone that you can talk to and get an answer to that problem you have, then that's where you would look for that plan manager that's going to have that type of boutique style. So
do you determine that on intake, what somebody's communication preference is?
Yeah, so in the intake, you've got the option to indicate if you're filling out the form, whether it be online, you can do it over the phone if you don't have the other ability. A lot of the time, a participant who doesn't have the ability to read or write or has difficulty with understanding language, their support coordinator will be doing it with them. But that's when a coordinator, for example, that's where they might call me. And a coordinator will be like, oh, hey, Stu, we're helping John Smith here.
So-and-so,
Look, Smithy's a bit of a technophobe. Can we get a letter every month? No dramas. So things will go through. I'll then go in and sort of help my team understand what we're looking for and make those adaptations.
Cool. That sounds like you've got it down pat.
It takes a lot of practice, but I'm very fortunate that the people behind me are actually as good as I say they are. If I
Do you think that's because you work with a small provider, like a small to medium provider, where that person-centered is quite the approach?
It really is. It's very important to me having that connection, that small to medium, because as soon as you go to large scale, it does lose a lot of its soul. And you then start to go from a hand on heart type of organization to a slick machine where it's more about your systems and your processes. And it's not anyone's fault, but it's a problem of scale. It's just unfortunately what happens.
At the moment, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job being a BDM?
I think the most rewarding part of my role would be when someone is advocating for me and my service that they have no actual stake with. So, for example, if a coordinator that has maybe used me once or twice is recommending my team and my services, that to me says that I'm doing my job very well. It's that I'm the kind of person. So it's, for me, the most rewarding part is, other than that sweet paycheck that we're all in it for the NDIS, it's It's knowing that what I'm doing is recognized by those that are not in the business that I am in as someone who
Yep.
is trusted and someone who is respected enough that you would then
Yep.
recommend me to someone else. That to me is probably the most important thing to me, is knowing that what I'm
Yep.
doing is respected by others to a level where you would want to advocate for me.
Yep. As you're doing your networking, because you do a lot of events and you go out and about and you meet a lot of people, do you have people that you put in the back row?
People that I put in the back row, those people tend to not come to my events. So for me, in terms of
Yep.
if we were to go with the quirk of the back row, there are going to be, no, to be fair, you
Yep.
you can't like and respect and agree with every single person on every single issue every single time. I
Yep.
think that it's okay for people not to like you. It's okay for people to disagree with you. And it's okay as long as what you're doing is for the right reason. So, for example, the people that would be in the ones that I would say are in my back row, really interesting way to phrase it, but they would be the kinds of providers that I have either had an
Yep.
experience with where I have seen things that I don't feel are ethically right. Even if they're within the
Yep.
guidelines, they might not be ethically right.
Yep.
Or they'll be the kinds of providers where I know, and this will be either first hand or second hand from somebody I trust and respect,
Yep.
to know what is going on within an organization. That's really where it's going to come down to. I don't hate indiscriminately, and I wouldn't say it's not even that I hate.
I do bench people.
Yeah, and look, it's because of,
Yep.
for me, it's all about the actions reflecting your values that I share. And it's not, and again, it's not that you don't have a place in the NDIS. It's just it might not be my place. And that's one of those things where, for me, that would be the kind of provider that I would probably have there. But again, a lot of the time, those providers that may not necessarily like me, and that's okay. If you don't like me, it's okay. As long as you think about me, that's my main thing. Is the idea that they're not going to come to my events, and that's okay,
Yep.
because
Yep.
I'm happy for you to not be involved. If you're
You
going
know,
to force me to do something I don't.
interesting. I've had this conversation before with somebody else that does events and they do it quite regularly. And one thing that struck a chord, they said to me, this person said, he said to me that, to be honest with you, Sarah, the dodgy ones that people talk about on the news are the ones that never turn up to the events. They're the ones that kind of lurk in shadows. They're the fraudsters. There's the people that you don't see. The ones that turn up to networking events and putting themselves out there are the ones that are intentively wanting to build a reputation in the sector.
For the most part, they're right. There's obviously going to be exceptions to every rule, but you're right. The ones that you
Yeah.
see the ones that you see on TV are only the ones that got caught. I think that's another thing to
Yeah.
keep in mind as well, is that the amount of fraud that has occurred in the NDIS, whether it be now or in the past, versus the amount that the public is, that are paraded in public and dragged
Aware
through
of.
the streets.
Yeah.
Is really disproportionate. Yes, a lot of the time you're right. Those providers that are doing shonkies are usually in the shadows. They're also the providers that will service a lot of different categories. They'll refer to themselves. They might set it
Yeah.
up where they've got 7 different companies with the same bloody name. Ridiculous. Oh, we'll never get caught doing that.
Yeah.
The idea of the provider that lurks in the shadows. It's also that this is the thing that we need to be thinking about, and your listeners and viewers will want to think about as well, is that these providers that we're saying are the ones that lurk in the shadows, or they're the the fraudsters and the dodgy ones.
Yeah.
They're getting their referrals from somewhere. They're not just magically, rubbing a genie's lamp. And
They're getting referrals and they're also getting picked. It means there's something that they're doing that the people that we serve are picking them by choice.
By choice is a very interesting way to phrase it.
Yep.
Picking them regardless, yes.
Yep.
But it's that, and this is the thing to understand, is that these providers do usually have strong connections to a community, whether it be a community of a certain ethnicity, of a community of a certain disability or group or type. They've got a connection in a particular cohort because their participants will be coming from that same place. The pool of participants that they will particularly work with will be quite limited, but they'll monopolize it. And again, this is not a hard and fast rule. This is going to be different for every provider. There's, like I said, there's been some providers even one that's publicly listed that had issues. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the same. This is just the
Yeah.
general, the general rule of thumb is patterns of behavior that we may see.
Yeah.
If I were to say, if you want to be reputable, because if you're starting out and you're trying to build your brand and you want to be taken seriously, definitely get involved in networking. But to understand that you're not the right fit for everyone, and understand that your connection to that provider, even if they're not necessarily one that's going to refer to you, your connection to that person may change in a week's time, in a month's time, in 6 months' time. When, say, for example, that particular person that you've got the vibe with then moves into a position where they could refer to you, but you didn't bother building that relationship, you then have to start again. That's you trying to take it seriously. You want to take it seriously in this industry, take the time to be a part of the network, not just as a fly on the wall. Be involved, give about it.
I believe that 100%, but I also believe in action and deliverables. So when we are providing care for the people that we support, we actually do a damn good job. We meet NDIS goals. We're also meeting their personal goals, whether it be a goal by the NDIS or not, but we're actually out in the community delivering. I believe, like, this is just my theory when it came to support workers, and this is from, provider support, independent support workers, your best marketing is in the community. I can guarantee if you ever wanted to go shopping for a support worker, and I mean this, like I'm going to sound a little bit tacky, but go to a food court at your local shopping centre, sit there at lunchtime and have a look around. Because the best support workers are the ones that don't look like support workers.
Absolutely. That is a big one as well, but it's also a very easy way to cross some names off your list. So if you're, say, in the food court and you go in there and you're casually sitting, you might be with your sister, your auntie, your brother, whoever it is you're in the food court with, you're just chilling, and then you notice that support worker shows up. One, they might be in uniform. I know that there are some that have feelings both ways on uniform. But two, the first thing they do when they sit down is they pull out their phone and they're doom scrolling. If you're showing that you're not present, that is a really easy way to put a red line through that company. And it doesn't say anything about the rest of the company. It's that one support worker. But if you're out in public, you're the face of the company you're representing. And
you are the marketing. Absolutely.
You are the marketing.
100%.
You are the marketing.
You are. See, I must admit, I am not for uniforms. And the reason why is because I had a lady that I took into service. And the one thing that she requested is the staff not to wear uniform. And I digged a bit more because I was like, tell me more. And she was very blunt and to the point. She goes, I just want to go to the supermarket. Why do I need somebody in uniform to take me to the supermarket? It's quite obvious I have a disability. Why do I have to highlight the fact that I came with a support worker? I just want to get my groceries and I want to go home. I was like, what? Kudos, don't worry. We don't do uniform anyway, so you'll be fine. But it's just curious hearing the feedback of the to's and froms about uniform. I'm not team uniform, I'll be honest with you, because to have community integration and connection, you shouldn't stand out. You should blend in with your community.
Yeah. Now, look, for the most part, I do agree with you. I actually would understand why an organization would choose not to have uniforms. The only time I think that uniforms are really helpful are when you're in a crowded situation. So you might be taking a group of participants out somewhere. The same goes when you're like if you're going on a tour, if you're going on a Contiki tour or a guided tour through another country or to a place that you're not comfortable with or familiar with, you're going to rely on that person that you can easily identify as your help to be able to see them in that crowd. So there are times where there's benefit to it, but it's very limited by comparison to the typical interaction. Yeah, completely understand where you're coming from. And for the most part, absolutely agree with you. There will always
it is preference based.
Oh, look, and preference is fine as well. And I know that for a smaller provider, the time that they're in that uniform is literally a walking board. And I get it. I really do. But you're there to support that participant, not advertise your business. If you want to advertise your business, go and actually get a stand at the Westfield supermarket or sort of shopping center, or go and do that networking event. But I get where you're coming from, 100% Sarah.
All right, now I'm going to geek out a little bit because you've got a pretty cool event coming up. And I need to get into this. Okay, so we're going to talk about the NDIS Wizards and Networking Fundraiser, where you're the plan manager professor. That magic what magic brings these type of events together?
So, okay. So one of the things that I always did when I first started doing the NDIS stuff was I noticed very quickly that there was a real pattern of behavior when it came to networking. There were your speed dating events, and they're very similar in how they, if you go from one, you've been to every single one in terms of format. You know exactly what to expect. And that's fine. There's a benefit to it, there's a
Yeah.
purpose to it, and there's a reason that they're still going strong. You
Yeah.
then get the stereotypical, let's get a bunch of people to sit around a table at a cafe and awkwardly get them to stand up one by one and introduce themselves. And it's unfortunate, it's a bit dull, it's a bit dry. It's really not for me. I don't mind doing them every now and again, but it's not my thing. So for me, again, the former teacher in me values engagement, interactivity, and fun as
Yeah.
the vehicle for education. And so when I was designing an idea for a networking event, so I'll actually take you back to last year. So last year I was at a coordinator meeting, and it was, again, they're all very similar as well. If you ever go to a coordinator meeting, they're very much the same. And I bumped into a girl named Carly, who is fantastic. If you ever get a chance to bring her on, I think she'd be a great guest for you as well. She's in disability employment space. Carly and I were just talking, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit dry, a little bit dull. And she was like, we should do something different. I'm like, let's do something fun. And so
Yeah.
we then started spitballing these ideas of what would make an event fun. And the first thing we said
Yeah.
was interactivity, was that it wasn't you listening to a sales pitch or reading a standee, it was you trying out the activity. And I'm like, okay, that's first and foremost, is you need to be able to try it. The second one was
Yeah.
variety, but not too much variety. The thing with speed dating events is we found that, people would walk out of there with 20 different business cards and not remembering much of any one person in particular. So,
Yeah.
okay, so let's reduce the number to maybe 4 or 5, which is a really magic number. And then we're like, okay, so we've got interactive, we've got 4 or 5, then brings it all together. Because the idea is that if you're going to have multiple providers talking about something, there needs to be an underlying theme. And so last year we did the theme of food. And so the theme was food, where all of my stuff on plan management was Jeopardy, trivia games, stuff like that around food within the NDIS and funding and categories and stuff like that. We then had a dietitian, we had a SLES organization, we actually had a couple of SLESs, and they actually got you to demonstrate and try out what they do as the way of getting to know them. And that sort of then evolved from that event, which was very successful in Sydney. We're like, okay, so for that event, for what it's worth, I immediately did dress up for that event. I decided to dress up as the most famous TV chef I know, the Swedish chef from the Muppets, and decided that was going to be, I'm like, okay, I'm going to dress up and have some fun. And we had a great time, and it was very successful for all of the businesses involved. And after that, this is where it led to us talking again, going, oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. How do we take it to another level? And so Carly made the mistake of saying, oh yeah, I'm like, oh, so how you been? What have you been up to? Just us talking in general. And she's like, oh, I've just been rereading Harry Potter. And she's like, geez, that would be a lot of fun to do something like that. I'm like, 3 days later, I'm like calling her up going, hey, Carly, we're doing this. So it was like, how do we take it from this level of fun to this level of
How
fun?
do I get all the millennials to turn up?
How do I entertain myself? If I find that I'm entertained and entertaining, it's going to be something that works. And so the idea of an event that's then themed around the wizarding world then went, okay, so now it's not just me dressing up. Now I'm going to make all of you dress up as well, because if you're all doing something together, it makes it more memorable. It takes it to that next level again. Because if we're having fun, the education and the connection comes with it. The education and connection is secondary to the fun. It's the opposite of every other networking event. Every other networking event, it's all about the, what do you do? What do I do? Here's our cards. See you later. Mine is like, come and try it. And if you like it, you'll tell other people about it, or you'll use it yourself. And so the idea of this wizarding event came about, and we were like, okay, we're going to do it. So we did it in Sydney. Again, Sydney was really well received. They absolutely had such a great time. We ended up with, I think it was 120 was what I was given as the figure of the number of providers that had shown up. Across the scheme. There was no one dominating part of the scheme. You had accommodation providers, core providers, support coordinators, even other plan managers were there. That's fine. Come to my event if you like. And so that ended up being really successful. And so what we then thought was, can we take it other places? And the thing
Yeah.
I want to do is when I do take an event to other places, and this is another thing that I see a lot of other providers do, is they'll stick with their friends. They'll partner with certain providers, and that's all they'll work with. I deliberately go
Yeah.
out of my way to work with different providers pretty much every
Yeah.
single time. And I do that because I want to, one, showcase other small providers, love doing that, and two, want to showcase that I'm not here because I'm good friends with that one provider, and if you do the same thing, you've got no chance. No, I want to work with all of you because I want to work with the network. So that it's just a different way of doing it. So yeah, that's how this event came
Yeah,
about.
it doesn't look like favoritism. I get you.
No, it
There's
absolutely
no
isn't.
that
Yeah,
sense because yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So, but you've also incorporated some elements of fundraising into this as well.
Yeah, I was actually about to mention that as well. So the other part that we wanted to do was to go another level, is to have something that was wholesome, to have something that was positive, that wasn't necessarily about a business. So a good
Yeah.
mate of mine that I've known since he was a kid started a charity called Fight for Their Future, where he, his own child has multiple conditions around autism and ADHD, and a couple of things that are really challenging for him. And he wanted to start the charity to build that bridge between the medical sector and the NDIS, so that parents and families
Yeah.
would get that support. And so I'm like, okay, let's incorporate that into this event as well. It does link. I mean, goodness sake, autism being one of the, if not actually, it's the highest in terms of primary disability in the NDIS, 30 or 35%, somewhere in there. It's very high. So what we're finding is that this is really relevant to the sector. It's in the charity's best interest to meet with as many providers as possible. It's in their provider's interest to meet with him, because they're going to make connections with families before they're even on a plan. So why would I not want to offer him the chance to expose the charity to the network to the charity, and at the same time raise a few quid while we're at it?
Yeah. That
And
makes a
so
lot of sense. I mean,
I was just
a lot of us
lucky.
came from non-for-profit backgrounds. I get it. In the early days before the NDIS, a lot of us were block funded, and a lot of us came from charity backgrounds before, the NDIS exploded, and there's all different providers now.
Exactly. And so that's one of the reasons that I wanted to support him and the charity, because I do think that it's worthwhile to, as much as the charity shouldn't need to exist, it does have a need.
Yeah.
We do need it. So that's what we do. And so for each of the events I've done in this wizarding event, so the cycle that I'm doing will be supporting that particular charity each time, because they are nationwide. And to me, it's just about doing something that's good, that I gain nothing from it.
It's a give back, really. It's giving back.
It's
Yeah.
just nothing wrong with being a little bit wholesome.
Yeah, absolutely not. I agree. Yeah. If you could wave your magic Harry Potter wand right now on the NDIS, what is one thing that you would change?
Okay, so I was actually asked this question on another podcast. Other than being minister for the NDIS, which is part of my world domination plans, I think the main thing, if I was to just change one thing right now, I would probably say the handling of conflict of interest. And I think that the reason I say that is because if you are able to handle conflict of interest through policy and legislation, a lot of the other things that happen go away. Again, back to that separation of services that should not be together. For example, providers that don't have that conflict of interest managed, where they do, say, support coordination, allied health, plan management, and core supports all in one. Unfortunately, whilst I'm sure the support coordinators genuinely want to be able to allow participants to choose whoever they wish, and I'm sure they probably hand on heart try, they're going to get pressure from on high in that organization of, why didn't you refer them to us, or why didn't you offer them us? We know it happens.
Yeah.
We know it does. Let's not lie to ourselves. It happens. If I were to make one change right now that I think would have the biggest impact on the NDIS as a whole, other than undoing the price guide changes, would be the managing of conflict of interest, to have certain services isolated from one another. There are going to be services that I think should be together. So if you're doing, in-home core and maybe community access, day programs and transport, like, there are some that should be together because they're just a natural fit. And I've got no issue. Like, that's not conflict of interest. Conflict of interest are the ones where you're really obviously able to refer to yourself and keep everything in-house. And but the biggest two are support coordination and plan management. You've got support coordination, that is the one that's the face of the NDIS for that participant. That is your organizer, your concierge, your PA, your whatever you want to call it. They are your person. And then second, the plan manager is the one holding the purse strings. You cannot have those guys in the same corner, in the same organization. It unfortunately, if I was to make, that's the first one I'd eliminate. The next one would be then allied health. I think that should be separated. But conflict of interest then reduces a lot of the other problems that we're experiencing.
You took the words out of my mouth. I agree. I find with support coordination and delivering services at the same time. I've seen a couple of them, and that gives me the absolute ick.
Absolutely right. And it is one of those difficult ones where there are some that feel that they don't have another choice. There are ones where it might be that they're in an isolated town where there are very few services. There's always exceptions to every rule, but generally separation of services. And I know that once upon a time it was, but I think that we need to go back to that model to try and sort of make an effort to isolate those lead-in services that refer from one to themselves.
Yep. You've got me hook, line, and sinker. I agree, and I think it's because I've seen it, and it annoys me greatly.
And I've seen it even now. It's frustrating because I feel for those poor coordinators that do get that pressure. It's not. I don't blame them. I know it's not them, but they're the ones that are going to be caught.
But there's a reason why we separated it to begin with, and that's because of choice.
That's right.
Having an opportunity.
Absolutely, impartiality. It's important.
I'm sorry if I'm a bit off topic and I'm going a bit round in circles here, but have you already got your outfit ready?
Absolutely, I have.
For your Harry Potter event?
Yeah, of course. I have. So I've got the same outfit.
Is it like top secret?
No, not at all. So I will be down there dressed as Snape because I am still only the second worst choice to play Snape. So take from that what you will. But yeah, I do not do, for what it's worth, I am not going to be impersonating Alan Rickman. I am not going to even try doing that. What I do is I will be dressed in that outfit. I will be giving it to Gryffindor the entire time. They're going to be, every time, like in Sydney, it was hilarious because we had other professors that would give Gryffindor points and I would immediately find an excuse to take them away. and that was just happening. The entire event was just giving it to them and praising Slytherin the entire time. Because why not? It's about just being in the spirit of what the event is meant to be, which is making it a bit magical, having some fun, and doing something that you don't normally get to do.
I just thought you wanted to be very Melbourne and wear black.
Well, I mean, that too. I mean, that also kind of works. But me, it was that I loved Alan Rickman, even in Die Hard. That's still our go-to Christmas movie. And yes, it is a Christmas movie. That's another debate.
I agree. I'm not going to debate you on it.
No, there's really no debate. You either think it's a Christmas movie or you're wrong. That's fine. And you're allowed to be wrong. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. Like if I was to take a character that I would like to dress as, is that. But then again, I do like doing costumes and cosplay for networking. It's me justifying the range of costumes that I have because I have a bunch already. And even last year, again, this might get edited, but that's okay. Even last year, I was bored with the idea. So I wanted to try and experiment with a different type of networking event. And so I actually did a SIL open home. And SIL open homes are really boring. They suck. They're very real estate-y and they're dry. And so I decided if I was going to do a SIL open home, I was like, we're going to throw a party, like a house party. Because that's what you do when you move into someone's house. When you move into a new home, you have a house party. So we actually threw a Halloween party. So we threw a Halloween party and the whole house was decorated. Everyone was told to come dressed in Halloween costume. And it was amazing. And so that's kind of I love that element of play that goes with what we do.
Yeah. I love Halloween, so I'm the type that decorates their house. So we didn't really disagree at all tonight.
No, and don't get me wrong, it's fine. But yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah.
I do have to ask, after the networking event, what do you hope people would walk away with?
Okay, other than a amount of reverence and worship for me, if I'll take that away, I guess one that they remember the event. And they remember it for being a positive experience. I hope
Yep.
that they might make a brand new connection with someone that they haven't met before. And I hope that afterwards that they can remember that this is a positive place and can be a lot of fun despite the negativity that's around them. I figure that if I can do all of that,
Yep.
they're going to retain the stuff we talk about. They're going to retain that knowledge. But if I say what I want them to take away from it is that every time they think about, you know, what was the best networking event you ever went to? What was the most fun you ever had in the NDIS? That's what they're thinking of.
So for anyone out there watching this podcast, what date, day, and time is your Melbourne event on?
Yep. So the event in Melbourne is actually going to be at the Scope headquarters in Hawthorne. It's going to be on the 23rd of July. So it's less than 2 weeks from the time of recording. So 23rd of July. And so it's going to start at 10 o'clock. If you're not sure, I'm assuming I can send you the link and we can put it in the descriptor below. If not, you're not sure, you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to send you the link to it. If you're involved in the NDIS, everyone is welcome. You know, don't get me wrong. You know who is going to, who you want there and who you think would be really helpful to have there. But at the same time, to me, it's, you want to have as many people there as you can, because the more people that are there, the more opportunities that are there, the more people you can connect with, the more stories you can hear. More people means more fun. I mean, who wants to show up dressed as a wizard with only one person there? Wouldn't you rather go into an entire room filled to the brim where it's standing room only and everyone's in the right spirit and the right attitude of the event?
After this event here, have you got any more planned, or are they top secret?
There are more planned. So the thing that gets as well, the thing that really triggers, the thing that makes this happen is who I'm going to collab with, who I'm actually going to be working with. Because if I don't have those providers that are right for the actual event, it doesn't go ahead. It needs to have people who understand what the event's about, how it works, where it fits in, and what you do to promote yourself that makes it happen. There are plans to do a few more even this year in other cities and other places and other states, but it will come down to, once I finish this one, I've got a couple of other things that I need to do in the short term. But then it will then be back to the drawing board. Okay, where are some places I'd like to visit and who can I work with?
Is there anything that I've missed from tonight's podcast that I haven't asked that we need to talk about?
If I was to give you anything, I would give you something that I gave to our mutual friend Michael. So I talked to Michael about this particular interesting thing. Now, in the NDIS, so I want to talk to you about a place called the Doubletree Inn. So the Doubletree Inn is a hotel chain that's owned and run by Hilton. And so being a Hilton hotel chain was actually, as its own brand, was not doing very well. And at one point they were trying to decide whether to just change them all to just standard Hiltons or what they were going to do. The marketing team decided to go in a different direction. And what they did was they actually added ovens to the check-in desk. And in those ovens at the check-in desk, when you arrive, you are given a bag of freshly baked, to their own recipe, chocolate chip cookies. Now, chip cookies, if you were talking to your finance team or your data research team, no research anywhere ever indicated that a person arriving at a hotel wants to be greeted with cookies. Doesn't happen. And it makes no financial sense because it is a cost to the business that generates nothing. You're already checking in.
At no point is any data that anybody would say that a restaurant, sorry, not a restaurant, a hotel would do well if they had chocolate chip cookies.
Yep. And so, but that thing is that connection that people had to that particular little item that they received, that warm, little sweet little thing, then had people coming back to that particular chain every time. And if I was to align that to the NDIS, what I would say to any provider out there that wants to try and find what their niche is or what their point of difference is figure out what is your cookie. What is that thing that you add to your service or that you do that's slightly different, that is not necessarily rational, but is going to be. So if you can figure out what your cookie is, find your chocolate chip cookie.
I like that. What draws people in.
Yeah, absolutely. Figure out what draws, but also gets them to come back. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's rational. It might even have a cost to the business. It might be something that costs the business, but work in the end because it is something that people will remember you for.
100%. Thank you so much for tonight. All right, too easy. All right. Bye for now, and thank you for joining tonight's podcast. I'll put some more details in below for anybody wanting to access your services and see how you are, and hopefully come to the event in Melbourne, and more to come in the future. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure, Sarah. Thank you again for having me. I look forward to catching up with everyone in Melbourne real soon. Thanks again.